Well, good morning, good afternoon, and of course, good evening, traders from across the globe. Welcome to my 2583rd edition of Short-Term Trading Live with Oscar Carboni. Traders, I promised to get out in front of the camera for you tomorrow evening. This evening, I just wanted to illustrate a couple of charts right here and right now to show you what looks like is going on technically. This video is for trading on Wednesday. That is May 31st, the last day of May 2023. Please remember the risks involved in trading. This is a very risky game. You can certainly lose way more than you had planned for if you are on the wrong side of this market without a protective stop. Put your protective stops in first. Never trade without them. Let's get going. Traders, the NASDAQ. Where we left off was the holiday reversal had come into play, and then boom, reversed at the end of the week, and here we are, right? Boom, Tuesday's trade, nice high up there, and the OMNI is remaining bullish. Now the OMNI remains green for trading on Wednesday. We're inside of the support channel, but we will buy deep dips. If we buy anything at all, it'll be a deep dip, not just any dip. So it's going to have to dip a little bit before we get involved. If we get involved at all, we will buy deep dips in the NASDAQ for trading on 5/31/2023. Beautiful hold here of the support. That's what the bingo's there for. Traders, you've seen this chart in every video, right? Under the support, can't get above, falls down, rallies up, rallies up, rallies up, hits the support, resistance. Can't get above, falls down. Same thing happens again. Let me get this out of the way. Same thing happens here. Comes down, hits support. But this time it gets above the resistance. Interesting. And away we go. And what happens? Comes back down and hits it as support. So it gets above the resistance. Gives it a test as support. That's the bingo number one it holds. And away it starts to go. Straight up, which is now creating this support line here on the way up. So you got to buy dips for NASDAQ while OMNI's telling me to, and that's what we will do. Let's go take a look at something else. Now there's some weight on the market at this point in time, and you might expect that because a huge piece of the NASDAQ is NVIDIA. And look at the monstrous gap. How NVIDIA opened up and just exploded. It closed here, right, around the 304.5 level and opened here at 385-ish and then jig-jagged around and went even higher. But now you have what you call a swing day, which means you may need to come down and fill that gap and maybe eventually fill this one too. We will take it one day at a time, one gap at a time, which is probably what's going to help create the dip in NASDAQ that we will buy if we get a chance. I don't know that NVIDIA would create that dip in NASDAQ alone, just pointing out the obvious to you. There's a gap about to be filled here and another huge hole right there if it wants to come down. And, you know, I've been telling you that inflation has become under control and that the Fed should be in check. The Bloomberg Commodity Index, the BCOM, I've showed this to you in several videos in a row now. And remember, we were as high as 140.55, the price of the index during the height of inflation. Well, look at the steady decline. Down, 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 down. We are now currently at 98.32. It was 140.55 when the Fed had to start raising rates. Why? To make something like this happen. The drop. Okay, well, the Fed did its job. The drop happened. The Fed can now go into pause mode. So there are other trades, there are other markets that will tell you that the Fed has done enough and they don't need to raise rates any further. Something like this. Look at the price of soybeans. Is this the one I wanted to show you? ZSX, let's do. Maybe it's N. Let's go for N. N's probably a prettier chart right now. Yes. Look at ZSN soybeans July contract, right? The most active contract. Not only was it in a tailspin on the way down, let's just grab a little tool here to show you. Not only was it in a tailspin on the way down once the Fed started to raise inflation, But look what it's starting to do now. It's really starting to fall apart. It was down almost 50 full points today alone and is now lower than the channel. See that? You're lower than the channel. So deflating soybeans, and soybeans is used in everything from food to rubbers on car tires to everything in between, right? Absolute deflation taking place there. Look at the soybeans, look at the wheat, right? Look at the massive deflation taking place in foodstuffs. It's all over the place. It's not just in foodstuffs, it's everywhere. The Fed has done its job. It does not have to drive the rates higher, and which would drive our stock market into the ground. We don't need to do that by raising rates to the point that it's more beneficial to have it with the bond market and the government, your money, than to put it into the stock market. And if they keep raising rates, that will be the breaking point. So they don't need to. Look at something like copper. So copper, deflating like crazy, right? Had the bear flag work perfectly, dropped, rallied up, hits the resistance line, double resistance line, because you've got this one here, which used to be support, then becomes resistance once you get under it and try to get above it, right? So it was support, then becomes resistance as we hit it, and look, it's already dropped since it hit that mark. So copper, deflating. Copper is in everything, right? Every electronic on the planet, you've got copper in it somewhere. This stuff is happening all over the place. And then look at something like this. Remember, we had this chart right here. Bitcoin, last video I showed you, I said, look at this perfect spot for Bitcoin to recover. Why? Well, because it does every time it hits this average, right? It's like a perfect spot to either get long or expect some major movement to take place if you get near it. So here's where we were. My advice was that we would hold, and this is what happened. Look, woof! Yeah, did we hold, baby? And for now, we are back in the channel on Bitcoin. Look, back in the channel. Boom, back in the channel. Held the 80 bar moving average as we expected. And, you know, something else did a nice job like that, too, while we were away. Look at this one. I think it was the Dow. Let me just be sure on that. It was like the DJIY, maybe. Yes. So remember this? I showed you this in the last video, and I said we are at a perfect juncture to now hold and head back up. And this is exactly what it looked like. And the holiday came into play, and this is what happened. It held, rallied smartly, and now we are above this line and stayed above. So very good, right? So far, so good. Nothing goes straight up, but the deflation is helping the markets find legs on those days when it does go down, and I think it's going to keep the Fed in check. At least it should keep the Fed in check when it comes to raising rates at the next meeting. Traders, remember, look at the CRB. The reason why the Fed had to raise rates was to lower the price of commodity inflation, which then would lower the price of shelf consumer inflation. Well, they've done their job, kids. I think we are on our way to even lower levels in commodities, which means soon the price wars on the shelves will start, and that is the opinion I'm receiving from looking at the charts. Thanks for tuning in. I'll do a video tomorrow night where I get in front of the camera. Remember, come visit me at my live trading room at livewithoscar.com. And then remember to say this to yourselves over and over again. Are you with me? Stops are in. Emotions are out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all at my live website. Go to my live trading room at livewithoscar.com.